Dragonflight patch 10.2 is just a week away, and while a certain new Evoker support spec has been getting most of the spotlight, Devastation Evoker is also getting some pretty cool changes, if I do say so myself. This video will cover some of the big upcoming changes and answer some of the common questions about playing Devastation Evoker in Season 3. Let's dive right in. What's changing in patch 10.2? The 10.2 patch notes begin with a developer's note, which reads, "We are reducing the effectiveness of Mastery Giant Killer and adding a health floor for the damage bonus. The goal is to bring some damage out of Dragon Rage due to the talent Tyranny, and make Devastation less reliant on hitting high health targets, while still retaining the flavor and gameplay of the Mastery. This makes them less bursty in PvP, and allows them to be more flexible in raid and dungeon content. To compensate for the reduced damage during Dragon Rage, we are increasing Devastation's overall damage as well." The changes read, Mastery Giant Killer reduced by 25%. For example, at level 70, 180 Mastery rating now grants 1.5% Mastery, was 2%. In addition, damage no longer falls off once the target reaches 30% health. Additionally, all damage increased by 8%, Disintegrate damage increased by 15%, Inherent Resistance reduces magic damage taken by 4 and 8, was 2 and 4, and Attuned to the Dream increases healing done and healing received by 3 and 6, was 2 and 4. Devastation's Mastery Giant Killer has been in a bit of a weird spot ever since Devastation was first released. On live, it started out as one of the most powerful secondary stats in the game in terms of value per point, but it suffered from one curious flaw. Outside of Dragon Rage, Devastation's damage in execute phases was pretty dismal as a result of stacking Mastery, regardless of how much damage it was able to deal earlier on. Giant Killer has been nerfed at least once or twice since the Dragonflight beta, and this change to the Mastery marks yet another nerf to try and rein in that polarizing damage pattern. But this time, it comes with a twist. Devastation Mastery now has a floor at 30% target health. This means that Mastery will continue to linearly decrease in value down to 30% and then stay flat in value until the end of the fight. The diagram on screen shows the effect of the change in terms of how valuable Mastery is at any given point in the fight. Mastery is now less valuable, point for point, until about 25% boss health, at which point Mastery is more valuable in the new paradigm. All in all, this specific change represents a direct damage nerf of about 5% before considering Dragon Rage and Tyranny, and about a 7% damage nerf in actual practice. Additionally, this of course devalues Mastery yet again, but more on stats later. To compensate, and to help bring Devastation up to the level of other competitive DPS specs, Devastation is getting an 8% aura buff, on top of 15% disintegrate damage, which we can say comes to about 13% increased damage overall. You may want to change some gear around, but your Devastation Evoker will do something like 8% more damage as soon as the patch drops, so that's something to look forward to. Finally, Inherent Resistance and Attuned to the Dream got buffed, just for Devastation. Devastation consistently has one of the highest death statistics in progression rating content, and is currently the highest death count across all Mythic parses, and second highest across the top 10% of raiders. While it can be argued that the spec has plenty of proactive options to keep itself alive, like Renewing Blaze and Obsidian Scales, the stats don't lie. These small improvements to Devastation's passive survivability, particularly the buff to Inherent Resistance, are well appreciated. How strong is the new tier set? The 2-set bonus reads, while Dragon Rage is active, you gain Emerald Trance every 6 seconds, increasing your damage done by 5%, stacking up to 5 times. And the 4-set bonus reads, when Dragon Rage ends, Emerald Trance persists for 5 seconds per stack and grants you Essence Burst every 5 seconds. When you first enter Dragon Rage, you start with 1 stack of Emerald Trance, and you will gain 1 stack every 6 seconds up to 5. This means that you will hit maximum damage from this effect after 24 seconds in Dragon Rage. A typical single target Dragon Rage on live lasts for 34 seconds, achieved with 4 extensions from Animosity, and can be potentially extended to 38 or 42 seconds with the help of good RNG and or running Event Horizon over Eye of Infinity. Between the continued damage amp and the free Essence Burst every 5 seconds, the 4-piece bonus essentially feels like an extra 25-second extension of Dragon Rage, just without the bonus from Tyranny. The result is a slightly changed damage pattern compared to live. Damage in Dragon Rage now ramps up to its maximum strength at 24 seconds, at which point you don't leave the paradigm of increased damage and resources until at least the 1 minute mark. Numerically, the set is quite strong. The 2-piece bonus is worth about 8% damage, and the 4-piece another 8% on top, or about 16% in total. Like the tier 30 set, this seems to be one of the higher value sets from a damage standpoint. You'll probably want to break your tier 30 4-piece to wear the new 2-piece, assuming both item slot upgrades also come with a substantial bump in item level. Is Nasz'uro the Unbound Legacy still best in slot? Nasz'uro the Unbound Legacy is the Evoker-only legendary weapon that many Evoker players crafted in Season 2 after obtaining the rare Cracked Titan Gem drop from Scale Commander Sarkrath in Avarice, the Shadowed Crucible raid. At this time, we're not aware of any path to upgrade this weapon in Season 3. The effect is quite powerful, but given the large jump in item levels in Season 3, Devastation players will look to replace this weapon sooner than later, assuming drops go their way. Nasz'uro the Unbound Legacy is equivalent to a vanilla weapon in the ballpark of 476 to 480 item level, but new cantrip weapons, like Vakash, the Shadowed Inferno, and Dreambinder, Loom of the Great Cycle, provide extra value, and can be used at a lower item level. This means that if you already have Nasz'uro the Unbound Legacy, it's not recommended to go out of your way to craft or upgrade a lower tier weapon early in the season. But instead, keep an eye out for upgrades that include regular hero or myth track weapons and cantrip weapons that drop as champion track or better. Vakash the Shadowed Inferno, as drops on normal difficulty, can be upgraded along the champion track to item level 476 using only Drake Crests, and looks to be an upgrade over the Season 2 legendary weapon. Are there any new builds? The short answer here is, at the moment, not really. Testing is currently being done using the same talent builds as Season 2, while noting that Event Horizon is likely to be a clear favorite over Eye of Infinity due to the increased value of Dragon Reach extension in Season 3. What does gearing look like for Devastation in 10.2? Well, the nerf to Mastery will definitely affect your secondary stat priority in Season 3. For some rough guidance, all 4 secondary stats are now in play for Devastation, with a slight priority of Critical Strike, then Haste, then Mastery, then Versatility. This is to say that all 4 secondary stats have similar value, especially once you begin to enter diminishing returns on Critical Strike and Haste. You will intentionally wear some versatility on your gear in Season 3. A healthy balance is key. Of course, be sure to sim your own characters and check the guides for the latest updates once the patch drops. This is still based on pre-release information after all. Trinkets are a bit up in the air and still subject to tuning, but for the sake of curiosity, early standouts include Naimu's Unraveling Spindle and Bellorelos the Suncolor. Naimu's is a strong mastery buff coupled with a channel damage effect, with the obvious downside that you will likely be channeling this, as well as any other on-use stat effects, in the middle of Dragon Rage, to best make use of the stats towards the end of your damage ramp. Bellorelos, on the other hand, is a simply strong on-use damage trinket with a somewhat short effective range of about 10 yards, just to keep things spicy. What embellishments are looking good for Devastation in 10.2? To keep things brief, Undulating Spore Cloak is looking like a solid pickup for progression content, for both its defensive benefit, as well as the versatility bonus above 70% health, as seems to be the trend for many direct damage specs in Season 3. The adaptive Dracothist Arm Guards are the other likely pickup for Devastation. They were strong in Season 2, no nerfs, strong in Season 3. So what do I think about Devastation in 10.2? Having played some Devastation Evoker on the 10.2 PTR, I have to say, it's quite fun. The ramping damage profile afforded by the new tier bonuses will take some getting used to, particularly when it comes to delaying potions, trinkets, and external buffs like PI, but overall, the 1 minute on, 1 minute off playstyle feels very nice to play. It almost feels like you're in Dragon Rage for over a minute at a time, which is remarkable and entirely enjoyable. As someone who will be preparing augmentation for progression rating, I'm somewhat disappointed that the 2 specs have quite different priorities when it comes to gearing, as it'll make playing both specs at a high level a bit of a challenge, at least temporarily. If we must compare Devastation with its support-oriented counterpart, in truth, augmentation is still likely going to outperform from an overall damage and utility standpoint in progression PvE content. But for most players, that doesn't mean that you can't play Devastation and still carry your raid team to victory through highly ethical Blue Beam gameplay. We'll see where the balance tuning ultimately lands and how things shake out over the first few weeks of the season, but overall, I'm absolutely looking forward to playing the new season for Devastation. and I can't wait to play it eventually, once I'm able to get it geared. So, what do you guys think? Are you going to try and main Devastation in Raid and Mythic Plus in Season 3? Or do you have concerns? Is there anything else that you'd like to know about Devastation in Season 3? Be sure to like this video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and of course, leave your thoughts in the comments below. Making content for YouTube would not be possible without support from viewers like you. You can find a link to my Patreon in the video description, where you can support me, get a colored name in the community Discord, and even get a special shoutout in future videos. Speaking of the community Discord, you can also find a link to that in the video description, where you can join the general channel, ask questions about Evoker, or even just hang out. It's a great time, so come stop by. And that's all for now. So until next time, have a good one.